So this is going to be a little bit odd. This is going to be a review of CarQuest, but off the top of my head. It's 6 a.m. because if I did this any later, my AC would have to be on and it would sound bad because it's going to be like 100 degrees today because I live in a valley in the middle of summer. Anyway, for a little bit of backstory, I have played a lot of CarQuest. I have over 100 hours on the Switch version. I have easily over 50 hours on the PC version. On Steam specifically, I have about 35 hours, but I've played a lot more than that because I actually ended up porting the game to PC. So the game, when it was being ported to PC, a lot of the scripts broke because of switching Unity versions and stuff. So I ended up porting all of the scripts, or remaking a lot of scripts that would animate things. So for instance, the artifacts that spin, they weren't spinning. So I had to recreate the script that would cause them to spin. Or the fish in the beach level were completely stationary, they were just floating there. So I had to animate them. 3 of the whales didn't work. The only whale that worked was the one that you have to land on to jump into the beach level. And that one only worked because it is specifically scripted to stop in front of the portal. The other ones just didn't work at all, including the one carrying the artifact on its back. So I had to code those. It was a lot of really minor stuff, but it did give me a lot of insight into the game as someone who played it as just a player. I was just a normal player. I speedrun the game, that's why I have over 100 hours in the Switch version. And I ended up getting in a speedrunner Discord. We were talking about a potential PC port, if I could mod the Switch version by ripping it and then messing with it from there. And eventually I ended up joining the eZone Discord server and the eZone Patreon. And Patreon, initially I messaged eZone. I was like, hey, is there going to be a PC port of CarQuest? Are you guys planning on that? Any news about that? And they told me that they were looking into doing a PC port, but they wanted to get, I think it was Diversion, back up on the App Store because it was down because it was created in a version of Unity that didn't support a specific thing that the App Store needed. So I ended up joining the Discord server and semi-jokingly bringing up that I would port it myself if I could, and they're just like, you want to? So that was a really cool opportunity. I love eZone as developers. They're very involved with their community. I would highly recommend joining their Discord if you play any of their games. They made Diversion, Sling, CarQuest, obviously. They made the Lenny Loose Jocks point-and-click adventures. I believe Lenny Loose Jocks in Space? Something like that. No, Lenny Loose Jocks Goes Walkabout is on Steam now. It just got ported to PC recently by, I think, partially by another fan, but I don't know if that was that game or a different one. But their fans do, apparently, semi-regularly, end up helping porting games, which I think is really cool. That's a really unique experience that I don't think most people have had. And I think that gives me a lot more insight on this game than it would for most people. I mean, obviously I've seen the code of the game, I've seen the internal workings, I understand how the game was put together, and how they, created the game and what makes what happen and what makes the game tick. Though there are a few things that I don't know how it happened. For instance, the hint system, which I'll get into, but essentially the hint system, if you haven't played the game, when you collect an artifact, if you have hints on, the game will completely stop, pull control away from the player, move the camera to whatever piece of the level moves from the artifact you collected. Lord Blockstar will usually say something. I believe he says something for every single artifact. And then the camera will pan back to the player, and then you can move. So I don't know if, say, that was implemented first, or if they designed the level, people, the quality assurance testers were having trouble figuring out where to go, and then they added the hint system. But it really seems like it was at least initially intended to be in some places because it's how a lot of the exposition for the story shows up. For instance, when you collect the book for... I'm going to go through the plot first. The plot's the easiest point to summarize, and the thing that I want to... I don't know if I should call this a critique or a review, because it's not really a review. I think you should buy the game. And that's really the point of a review, right? A critique is more critiquing a game, going into it as more objectively, right? And saying, is this good, is this not? So I think it's more of a critique than a review. Anyway, the story is really weird, but in a good way. It's very whimsical and silly and fun, right? So you show up in this world called Blocktaria. You end up in the city area, and a person, a floating holographic head named Lord Blockstar is there to help you. He tells you to collect this artifact, which then begins to restore the world. In this instance, it unblocks a path for you to get into the first level. And as you go on, you learn that each artifact is actually restoring his memory as well as restoring the world partially. You unlock different areas throughout the world. You unlock all the different portals and essentially the entirety of Blocktaria. You open up the university. You bring people back to life, I think, in some instances. For instance, in the throne room, when you collect a certain piece, a certain artifact, a bunch of, I think they're referred to as the council, show up, and they're all sleeping, and then you collect another artifact later, and then they wake up, which is odd, but and the reason you are helping him is because he went to your world, the Wheeled Heroes world, to find someone to help him restore Blocktaria, as well as help him capture Captain Brick Bristle, who I'll get into in a second. He saw this car, the car that you play as a Wheeled Hero, spinning on top of a auto repair shop. I was going to say gas station. It's not a gas station. An auto repair shop called Fix It. So he's like, oh, that person, or that whatever it is. I think technically in this lore it's a person. And your entire purpose before going to Blocktaria was to be a set piece. Is the car sentient? I don't know. Is the car not sentient, but the player is, and the player is somehow inserted into this world through fourth wall breaking shenanigans? I have no idea. It's not explained at all, and I think that's really fun. So the Lord Blockstar takes you from your world, plops you in Blocktaria, and you're on your way. You eventually figure out that, so when you get into the generator level, which restores power to all of Blocktaria, and is also what causes most of the inhabitants of the world to reappear in the hub area in the city, you collect this book that Captain Brick Bristle was trapped in because he tried to take over from Lord Blockstar, and he ended up escaping the book and then taking over again. So you have to grab the book, you have to collect Brick Bristle's beard for some reason, which reveals to the king that it is Brick Bristle because he puts the beard on for some reason. Anyway, he takes over from Lord Blockstar. Lord Blockstar needs to go get his crown from Limbo, which is where Brick Bristle puts it, so you have to go through this maze, this foggy maze, which I'll get to the level design of later, called Limbo. You get the crown, you go back to the throne room, use the book to capture Brick Bristle, and then you have to collect 10 stained glass museum pieces to actually activate the portals that let you leave Blocktaria, or the other ending where you stay in Blocktaria and spin as a display piece while people praise you, I guess. Really whimsical, really weird, not sensical at all. It's completely nonsensical and I love it. It's so good. There are, if I'm remembering Bishop's favorite phrase correctly, approximately 800 plus lines of dialogue in the game, and it's all so much fun. I'm pretty sure most of it, if not all of it, was actually done by Jamie Edis, and the game was made by two people, Simon Edis and Jamie Edis. Simon did all the technical stuff, the coding, the marketing, and Jamie did all the art, the voice acting, the music, all that stuff. I'm not sure who did level design. I think Simon did the blocking of the level design, and then Jamie, prettied it up and stuff. But don't quote me on that. That's not for sure. I've watched all the CarQuest content I have found. There's one under the hood video, quote unquote. That's what they called it, where they go into how some of it was created. They also had a Vine account where they showed off very little of the pre-development phase of CarQuest, where they get the engine working, the driving, and all that. And I've seen the game under the hood quite literally. I've seen the code, but I still can't tell you some trivia like that. Who knows? Maybe Uzone will clear it up. Anyway, so the actual level design of the game is the, the level design is good. However, it is heavily impeded by the hint system. The very beginning of the game is an incredible microcosm to the entire rest of the game. So when you start, you have to turn around from where you're facing to get the first artifact. And the first artifact causes a wall behind you to move. Now, since the wall behind you moves, the camera has to turn around, but it doesn't let you move during this, obviously, because the camera isn't on the player, and it plays a cutscene there, right? So you're forced to turn around from the thing that changes, you collect the piece, control is forcibly ripped away from the player, you are shown what changed, and then control is handed back to you. There are so many ways this could have been remedied, and this goes for almost every piece. There are a few instances where I think hints, or forced hints like that would be useful. For instance, when you collect the piece that opens the university. If you're not paying attention when you run by the university and see the blank artifact spot, and then you go collect it later, you're gonna have no idea what it does. But if you, so it would be a good instance there to show you, hey, look what this piece did. However, it would also maybe be beneficial to put the piece that changes the university closer to the university, and this goes for pretty much every piece. So to fix this first piece, my gut reaction would be to place walls, low down walls, so that you would be forced to face the direction of the thing that changes when you collect the piece. That way the camera doesn't have to be ripped away from the player, and control doesn't have to be ripped away. Lord Blockstar could say the thing that he says, I don't remember the exact line, but you'd still be facing it because the walls, and then you would back out from between the walls and then go on your way. So that would immensely, better the pace of the game. The game's pace on your first playthrough is so almost good, but still really annoying because you're constantly stopped because of the hint system. If the hint system was reworked and the level design was accommodating to that, I genuinely think this game would be so much better casually. I adore this game. This is one of my favorite games ever, right? However, casually, it is not amazing because of the hint system. So I'm not going to mention the hint system too much more. I'm going to act as if, except for the instances in which it's actually useful, I'm not going to be commenting on it. I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist. So when you go into the tutorial level, or speedrunners call it the tutorial, most people recognize it as the tutorial, quote unquote, when you enter the first portal that costs 10 batteries. Each portal costs 10 batteries, and these batteries are floating all throughout the world. You collect them as you go through. In the Switch version, you only had the basic car, and there were fewer batteries spread around, so you'd have to sometimes go around and farm batteries. Normally, it wouldn't be that much of an issue because there are a lot of batteries hidden around, like really hidden ones. For instance, in the tutorial level, if you ramp off the ramp in the middle of the level, you can actually jump behind the wall, and there's a path back there with 200 batteries. So right off the bat, you already have more than enough batteries to enter the first level, or the second level, especially after you go around and collect all the batteries in the hub that you'll be getting on your way to that level anyway. But if you don't get all the hidden batteries, you're going to have to grind for batteries a little bit, and that's a big turnoff for a lot of people when they play this game as well. But if you're exploring and you're actually looking around and you're collecting most of the batteries on your way, you're not going to have an issue with it at all. And speedrunners actually get all the batteries for the Switch version anyway. It might be different for the PC version, especially with Deluxe, with all the changes to the cars and the new cars. Anyway, Deluxe has, once you get these 4 wheel tokens, you can actually get a car that doubles the amount of batteries you get from each battery. So the normal individual batteries will give you 2. The batteries that'll give you, 25, like the mega batteries, will give you 50. The 50 ones will give you 100. Basic math. Which is really, really useful and greatly cuts down on the tedium, especially if you're not trying to find all the secret batteries, But anyway, back to the actual level design that doesn't involve batteries. The first portal costs 10 batteries, you get into it, and you're plopped into this level with basically no indication where to go. I mean, it's pretty obvious, there's only one place you can go. When you go around the ramp, you follow the batteries, you go around the ramp. In an alcove under the ramp, there's an artifact there. So you collect that artifact, and everything around you changes. It's a small area, so it's obvious where the change will be, because there's only so many places that it can be. And the actual, you can see where you get the artifact, that things are changing around you. So obviously, the changes happened where you are at. And I think if more artifacts were used in this way, it would have been a lot better. And I don't know if there's going to be a sequel. There's been some talk where like I was like, oh, the speedrunners and I thought it would be fun to create a pseudo sequel where you do these things. And E-Zone, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they're like, oh, that would be cool. It would be easy to make new levels. That's a perfect match. So I don't know, maybe. I do think a sequel is possible, especially if the other speedrunners and I work on it. But I would want to make sure that each level, that the hint system, first of all, is completely reworked and no hints at all. Well, okay, as few as possible given our level design, whatever is come up with, as few hints as possible, completely remove control from the player. Anyway, so you go up the ramp that is created from this artifact that you just got, and then you return to the hub. Now, this is another pretty decent use of a hint that completely removes control from the player. The thing that moves is not seeable from the start of the hub, and you are still not given very much direction with the change. All that you know is that a huge portion of the level has opened up to you. So you start exploring the level, you follow the battery trail, which takes you almost directly counterclockwise around the area that you're able to explore, almost directly to the next artifact that you need to get. You go around, follow more batteries, and then you see these, there's a battery in an alcove, or there's an artifact in an alcove. You were just shown where it was with the artifact, or with the hint, which, again, the hint system, first of all, destroys the pacing of the game, but also kind of removes the exploration aspect in a lot of instances, like this one, where it shows you exactly where the artifact is. Because you just got an artifact that moved the thing around the other artifact, I think that hint, for instance, could be removed entirely, and no ill effects would be given, because you're still following a new battery trail. You're still going counterclockwise around the entire hub, and you keep going counterclockwise, right? And the next hint, when you get that artifact to open the ramp to get up on this floating platform, that hint could also be removed entirely. And the next one could also be removed entirely because you're still going around counterclockwise. You collect a few more pieces, and then you get to one of the weirdest obstacles and another, like, really obviously easy to change thing that would just make the game so much better. You have to slalom around some trees, hitting switches to bring up a ramp that is facing the opposite direction of you, so you have to go around the ramp and get up on top of it. This is a fine obstacle. However, because of the way it's oriented, the piece that you collect changes something directly behind you. So again, the hint has to rip control away from you. What would have been great is if the entire obstacle was just rotated 180 degrees. So you would still have to turn around to get up on the ramp, but the change would happen in front of you, and control wouldn't have to be ripped away from the player. Granted, even when changes do happen in front of and around you, control is ripped away because of how they set the hit system up internally, but, you know, you get the idea. Like I said, I'm pretending hints don't exist unless they're needed, like in this instance. You go up, collect another piece, and then you go into the second level, which speedrunners call ramps. I've also heard it called bridges internally. Like in the files, it's called block spin, so I'm just going to go with block spin because there are spinning blocks all over the place. Now, in the Switch port, and the Switch version, there's one artifact, or there are two artifacts. There's one artifact that changes something in the level, and then there's another that you get that will change something in the hub that'll let you get to the next area. However, in Deluxe, there are two wheel tokens here. One you can get right now that is unlocked by getting the first artifact that actually changes the level, and the other you need to come back for later once you get... you can do it with the Froggy car, and I'll get into what all the cars are and what they do later. But you can do it with one car relatively difficultly, or you can do it with another car that you get later on really, really easily. And that's how a lot of the tokens are. I really like it, because most tokens can be gotten with either the first car or the Froggy car, and I think it was really well done how... But it's also kind of like broken. I'll get into that. So I actually really like the design of Block Spin, because you go down this ramp, you follow this path to get to a gap in the road, and it was an extremely linear path, so it's not like you missed an artifact along that path. So you turn around, and at the very beginning of the level, right next to where you started, there's a cube that's just floating there. But it was blocked from your view by a pillar to your left. So you go all the way back and collect it. I love that, how it forces you to see where the artifact is without explicitly telling you. A lot more levels could have stood to be designed like this. And of course it wouldn't work for every single type of level, and this exact trick would get boring really, really quickly if it was reused at all. But, you know, things like this would have greatly increased the pacing of the game. And the hint again shows you that you can go along this super linear path now, but I mean, it wasn't needed, so I'm not gonna comment on that one. So you leave this level, and now you are able to get into, and after exploring the hub a little bit more, of course, you are able to get into a level called Flashback, or in a portal called the Flashback Portal. And this shows you where the Fix-It shop was, and this is one of my favorite levels, especially because it's so easy to play casually with hints off. So you have to like jump up on these, it's a wide open area, right? And you jump up on these rocks, these, I don't even know what they're called, I guess they're just boulders. You jump up on these boulders, and things usually relatively in front of you change. And if it's not directly in front of you, then it's going to be relatively, you know, you're going to be able to see it because it's this big, wide open area. Hints were not needed in this level at all because of how wide, you can see everything from pretty much anywhere, as long as you're facing the right orientation. And I think facing away from the change could have been a really nice gimmick here if it didn't show you exactly what changed, because you'd have to turn around and play spot the difference a little bit. And again, it would be really annoying if this trick was overused, even, you know, in 1 or 2 more levels. But in this instance, I think it was a really good way to avoid the hint system, but it wasn't used to avoid the hint system. It was just used as another level where you linearly go between these artifacts. In Deluxe, one of the wheels, the tokens, I'll call them tokens from now on, that's easier, is on top of a cactus, and you can't get it until later. I have tried every single car. The only ones that I have found that are capable of getting it are Froggy, Froggy, Battery Rocket, and Infinite Flight. I think Spider too, but I don't remember. I don't think Spider can. So you need to come back later. You cannot get this with just the normal car or the Super Boost, which are the only 2 possible to get here without, you know, sequence breaking. So you leave Flashback. Oh wait, no, the other token, sorry, I almost forgot. The other token, you have to like ramp up this really weird pillar in a cave. It's like a naturally formed rock stalagmite. So you have to like finagle up it. It's a lot easier to get when you actually have a later car, but it is possible to get with the basic car, which is really nice, I think. So now, when you get back from Flashback, you can go under the pool, drain it. And this is a great instance of something where the hint was not needed, right? You could, Lord Blockstar, after a few minutes of you exploring and not finding it, you'd be like, hey, maybe you should check around the pool. Since the... Or even, like, after Block Spin, there's this giant spinning cube in the middle of the hub that wasn't spinning before, and Lord Blockstar could be like, hey, there's that big cube, but it wouldn't have to remove control from the player, you know? You could drive by it. Lord Blockstar could point it out, because there's only so much area that you can even drive around in at that point, and that goes for after Flashback too. So you get that piece, the pool drains, you get another piece that lets you get a piece that moves, or that allows you to push around this pillar, this platform, in the drained pool. And this one tiny change could have made this area so much less annoying. So what you have to do is you push it, assuming you're facing the same direction that you are when the level starts, you have to push it to the bottom left, and then the bottom right, and then the top left. So when you push it to the bottom left, you actually have to push it out towards the middle of the wall, push it across the entire pool, and then push it down again. What I think would have made this so much better is doing bottom left, top left, bottom right. Because you could just push it straight in one direction to get to the second one, and then the second push would be 3 pushes instead of, getting to the third platform would only take 3 pushes, and getting to the second platform, am I wording this right? Okay, it takes 2 pushes to maneuver 2 reorientations to push the middle platform so you can get to the first platform to get the first piece, which unlocks the second platform that you have to get on. So you push, it takes 3 pushes. So total, we're at 5 pushes, okay? I'm trying to do this as simply as possible. Then it takes another 3 pushes, so 8 total pushes to get the final artifact. If it had been bottom left, top left, bottom right, it would have only been 2 for the first one, the same, then 1 for the second one, and then another 3. So it would have been cut down from 8 to 6, which would just cut down the tedium so much. And I know it sounds so small, but things like this throughout the entire game add up and up and up. Every single hint tears control away from the player, and then these little tediums just keep going, right? And again, I love this game. I really genuinely adore this game. I have probably over 200 hours in it, if you include my development time and my time QA testing, and some other secret stuff that I'm not going to mention right now. I've spent well over 200 hours in this game, but so obviously I love it, but there are so many little things that I think could be changed to make the game so much better casually as well. So the next level you get to is called Slider. Internally, it's called Slider, and it's also called Slider by speedrunners. This is one of my favorite levels just because it's so easy to sequence break. For your first playthrough, I would genuinely not recommend sequence breaking because it's so difficult to figure out what you're supposed to do after you do. This level is the only exception because this level is so small, right? So what you're supposed to do is get a piece on the floor that you're on to the right, push this platform in the middle to the left, and then get a piece elevated on the left, then go over, get one behind this pushable platform, get one up on the right, so you can push the block over, get one up on the right, go back over to the left, right up this platform, for this newly unlocked ramp, get to a higher area, all this stuff. But what you can do, what I think is a lot more fun, is you wall ride on the right to get up on the right initially. You get a piece that lets you get on top of the left one immediately, and then you can just boost to the end. So it's like 3 artifacts instead of the intended I think 7 or something off the top of my head. I love Slider because it's so easy to sequence break. The entire game is really, really easy to sequence break if you know what you're doing, which is why I like speedrunning it, because it's really fun to find new ways to go about this world, to explore this world, and to find ways. When it turns into a sandbox, it's a lot more fun, which is probably why I like it so much, because you're exploring this world and finding different ways to go through it that aren't intended. And I think that sort of open-ended sandbox exploration is a lot more fun, especially with the kind of game this is, with the controls. A lot of people don't like the controls because they're a little slidey, but once you get used to them, honestly, they're some of the best game controls I've ever experienced. They're incredibly simple. You just have a drive, brake/reverse, and drift. That's it. And it gets a little bit more complicated with the other cars, but really not that much. Like, there's a jump button for one of them, but that same button is used for a boost for a different car. And that same button is used for flying on a different car. And you can even use accelerate to fly. So the controls are super simple, but they work perfectly for this game. I love the controls. They're fine. They're great, even. The next level is probably my favorite level. You have to drive across this thoroughfare, which is unlocked after a little bit more exploration. And this main thoroughfare there are, I think, 3 or 4 levels that you get to just by crossing this. And eventually, or after, going around back and forth, which is a lot of the sequences between levels, you're just going back and forth in the hub to get artifacts in a certain sequence. You're going back and forth to get, one at the end of the thoroughfare, and then you drive all the way back. You get one up a little ramp right after the thoroughfare, and then you have to go all the way down next to the university, and then you have to drive all the way around the entire hub to get back up onto the thoroughfare to get another piece, drop down to the pool, get a piece in the pool, and then drive all the way back up across the thoroughfare again. So again, all the little tedious things add up and up and up. Anyway, you get to Maze, which is my favorite level, the Maze level. Internally it's called Level Maze, and then the speedrunners just call it the Maze. I love this level because, it's a maze, right? So the hints aren't gonna help you very much, even if they show you exactly where to go, because you still have to navigate through this maze. And then once you do get through the maze, you get to be on top of the maze, which I think is so much fun. It's such a good concept, especially for a game where you can't just jump and invalidate the entire top of the maze section, right? Because it's not a platformer. Okay, well, it is technically a platformer, but it's not a traditional platform. You don't have a jump button. So you have to drive across the top of this maze and move ramps around and stuff so you can navigate to other parts on top of the maze. I think it's a lot of fun. I love this part of the game. You can also get through the maze with one artifact that opens up the way to the end of the maze, then jump up a ramp, drive up the ramp to get on top of the maze, and then boost over the maze, so you can invalidate the entire top of the maze. It's just really hard to do and incredibly circumstantial. But it just so happens that the maze is created in such a way where you can beat the entire level with just 2 artifacts and then get the final artifact. And I love it. It's so much fun to sequence break. It's so much fun to learn the maze itself. And it's a lot of fun to realize that you can just drive over the top of the maze if you do it right. But it's still hard, so it's not like casual players are going to be able to do it easily and sequence break on their first playthrough and not know where to go because they saw the wrong hint in the wrong order, you know what I mean? Which is the main problem with sequence breaking on your first playthrough. I would not recommend it. Anyway, so you exit the maze, and you are able to get down to this, or well, it lets you, I don't actually remember the sequence. I haven't played this game in proper sequence in a while. I did it when I was quality assurance testing for the PC port, and I think I did it once when the PC port came out, just so I could find all the wheels, or the tokens. But aside from that, I've not played this game in proper sequence in a long time. Anyway, I do know that the next level is one which the speedrunners call Half Pipe, but internally it's called Arena. It's this big surprise half pipe area where you have to use the walls, the ramp up towards the half pipe, to ride up the walls and land on platforms or like pathways that are elevated, you know? I'm trying to explain this as thoroughly as I can. I don't know if I'm going to edit this properly to have visuals that are explaining what I'm talking about, or if I'm just going to have gameplay in the background. But you do get on these elevated platforms, elevated walkways to get artifacts to unlock other elevated walkways so that you can driveways, I don't know, walkways, same thing, the wheeled hero anyway. So you drive up onto these it's a lot of fun to like trick off of this half pipe. It feels like you're doing cool tricks, even though you're just driving up a wall. And it is a lot of people's favorite level, despite being so short. I think it's 3 or 4 artifacts long casually, which is nothing. In fact, speedrunning it, I think you still have to get all the artifacts, and it's not fast. However, there's one of my favorite secret areas. I don't like this level that much just because it's so simple and you just go up the walls a couple times and that's it. But there's one of the coolest secret areas where when you get to the final portal, the one that lets you leave the level, if you drop down instead near the portal, there's this platform there with a secret portal that takes you to the top of the level. There are actually 2 tokens that you can get from this. One, you need the spider car, which is one of the final cars, and one you can just ramp off the ramp up here to land on the upper platform to get a token. I love this area. There are a bunch of batteries. On the Switch version, there are only batteries because there are no tokens in the Switch version. It's really well hidden. It's really cleverly hidden. It's great. I love it. Anyway, then you boost off the top of the level to get back into the portal. It's so much fun. But I don't like the level itself because it's just kind of boring and short. Well, I like the level, but it's not, anything special. So then you are able to unlock this piece that lets you go up to the top of the area. I think you were able to go up here earlier, but you're not properly able to explore it normally yet. So you drive up to the top, this top area, the upper level abduct area, and you get a piece that so you have to do this like light puzzle, and this is one of the weirdest, oddly hardest areas of the game casually. You have to drive in a circle, a really tight circle, to get all of these lights lit up in time, and you have to do it really, really quickly. And I'm someone who speedruns this game, and I still have to, give it 2 or 3 tries sometimes. Anyway, then this middle platform will rise up, and you can drive up and grab a piece that makes these floating islands move down, so you can collect another piece, and then you drive all the way up around Tedium, you get another piece, and you have to drop down and then drive all the way back up around, and then finally you can go into the next level, which is called Sands of the Fallen Kings. Casually, I think that's what Lord Blockstar calls it. I believe internally it's called level Towers, and then the speedrunners in the speedrun community it's just called Dunes. There are a lot of different names for these levels, like there's one later on called Island by the speedrunners, and it's called Island internally as well, but it's Brick Bristles Island, or there's one called Ice. The speedrunners call it Ice, and it's called, I believe, Ice Temple Valley by Lord Blackstar. So the names are confusing. I'll be using as many as I can, and all of them that I know, and you'd think I'd know most of them at this point. But my knowledge on this game is as extensive as it is surprisingly limited. I didn't know there was a honk button until someone mentioned it like a week ago or something. Like, there's a honk button? I've played this game for 200 hours. I've looked at the code of this game and I didn't know there was a honk button. And each, actually, in the PC port, CarQuest Deluxe, each my brain just stopped. Each car has its own honk sound. It's really fun. Anyway, so you get to dunes, sands, so the Fallen Kings, whatever you want to call it. And this is, I like this level, but I think what it was trying to do was poorly executed. It's rough terrain to drive on. That's not what I'm talking about. You get the pieces in order, and suddenly you're at a stop. There's the next piece that was shown you can't actually collect. So what you have to do is you have to there's a piece hidden under a ramp that fell earlier, but it didn't show you the artifact that was actually under the ramp. So you have to explore under the ramp yourself, but it's not an area that you would go to normally. There are, I think, batteries down there, but it's only a few batteries. And even if you are collecting them, there's no guarantee that you're going to see this artifact. So I really like that there's this hidden artifact that is separate from the main branch that just gets you to the exit. It is required to get the main artifact for the end of the level. But I don't like that it's hidden in an area that's just not attractive to explore casually, right? So you get the second one, this random artifact that was hidden under this random ramp that was not incentivized to be explored at all. And then you're able to get the final artifact and actually leave the level and have something happen in the hub. And the artifact that you get actually allows you to get to the next level. I'm going to skip through most of the hub stuff unless there's something that I think is properly notable. You can just assume that it's relatively tedious, but not that bad. Still fun enough that I decided to speedrun the game, obviously. So this level is called Beach. It's you have to get there, you have to jump across this ramp and land on a block whale. You have to time it so you will actually land on the block whale. The timing is really, really loose. You can actually start moving, like you can start from the back of the ramp, start moving as soon as you see the whale come to focus, and it'll make it just fine with seconds to spare. But you can also time it when it's coming and just barely land on it and make it look all cool. You land on the block whale and then you bounce off of it and land right in front of the portal. You go into the portal, and this level is it's a good level. I think all the levels are relatively good, but in the Switch version, getting the final piece or the final artifact is on top of a block whale, and you need to get a bell-shaped one to actually get the block whale to know its feeding time, quote unquote, according to Lord Blockstar. So it'll come down into the water so you can ride on top of it and get the artifact. However, in the Switch version, it comes down semi-randomly. It doesn't always come down in the same spot, which is really, really frustrating. And it was the main reason that I never did a 100% speedrun on Switch. However, because I actually did the porting for this on PC, I made it come down in the exact same spot every single time. I made it go slower, and it's a lot more consistent now. So you can thank me for a great, incredible improvement to the game that actually makes it playable. No, but really, I do think that was a good change, and that's probably the most major change that I made to it. So casually on the Switch version, the level is fine up until you get to that. In the speedrun, it's a lot of fun. I think it's also really satisfying because in the PC version, there are 3 tokens here, and they're all achievable with just the basic car. So it's really, really satisfying to come here really early on, sequence break to here, and get 3 tokens right off the bat. It's so nice. Anyway, that's all that's really, important in that level. So you exit that level with the piece. It allows you to enter the university, I believe. It lets you get on top of, so right above the starting area, there's this area that you unlock. It's really convoluted because the piece from the previous level actually unlocked the area to get there, but you have to realize that the block whales are there. So you can actually get the piece that lets you get the artifact because it makes another bridge appear. And it took me so long to realize that the block whales are there and to realize that you could actually jump on top of one of the block whales to get to the portal. So this is another instance in which you have to realize that you don't have everything you need and you have to actually explore for the piece you need. But again, I don't think it was done in a great way because Lord Blockstar is like, oh, the block whales are back, but he doesn't say anything about the portal over there. Unless, you go explore and look around, which I guess is the point. But at this point, you have so much of the hub unlocked, almost the entirety of it, actually. So it's just kind of annoying to figure out that you're actually supposed to jump on top of one of the block whales. I guess it is pretty obvious in retrospect, but in the moment, it was really annoying for me to figure that out. I actually had to go find a YouTube walkthrough. At this moment, I believe there's only one walkthrough up on YouTube, and it's for the Switch version. I don't remember the channel, but I mean, there's only one. I'll link it in the description because it actually really helped me in my first playthrough. Anyway, so you get that piece, you unlock the university, you do some stuff there, and you're able to go to the ice level. Ice Temple Valley. Speedrunners call it ice. It's called level Temple Valley or something internally. So this level is... there's a lot of ice stuff, obviously. And there are also unstoppable forces of nature known as No, they're pixel penguins. I don't know why I said block penguins. There are a lot of animals in this game. There's the pixel fish in the beach level that are like jumping around. You'll see them in that level. There are the block whales. There are block-o-flies, which are butterflies flying around like the trees in the hub. And I think I'm pretty sure there's a level that they fly around in. I think they fly around in the island level, not the beach level, but the island level. It's a different one that we haven't gotten to yet. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure they fly around in one of the levels, though. There are the block gulls, which are seagulls. And then you got the pixel penguins. You got block sheep in the next level, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, you get into the ice level, and these penguins are walking around in a circle and standing up on pillars and spinning around. It's a lot of fun. Really whimsical, just like the rest of the game. But this is like one of the best, most whimsical moments in the entire game. I love it. In fact, Baron Bishop, the world record holder for the speedrun, as well as a pretty good friend of mine, because of CardQuest, actually, he used the pixel penguins as his profile picture for a long time on Discord. Anyway, so they're pushing these ramps around, and you have to either wait for them to finish pushing the ramp and then push it back to where you need to get it, and then jump off to get some of the artifacts. There are artifacts. I think there are 2 artifacts you can get right off the bat, and there's one that's off of a ramp that a pixel penguin is pushing, so you can actually time the jump with the pixel penguin. And then there's one kind of hidden behind a wall in a corner, and this is a great instance of hiding an artifact where you can get 2 at the same time, where a hint won't necessarily show you where one of them is, because you're going to already be exploring because you're not given direction when you first enter the level, and it's a small area that you can explore right off the bat. So you're probably going to explore behind this wall anyway. And then, there's the ramp, which is less obvious initially, but then once you have the other one, you'll notice that, oh, hey, there's this ramp that I can jump off of and get this other artifact. And then there are other artifacts that let you push this big pillar around. And there's a lot of really fun secrets breaking you can do in this level. On the Switch version, there's a jump to get the second to last artifact in this level. That's really, really hard. You have to position the ramp in just such a way where when you boost off of it, you can bonk off of the wall and bounce up to the house piece. I'll find a clip of it, put it up here if I can find it, from Bishop, because he's really good at it and really consistent. On the PC version, though, you can just kind of boost at it with the ramp as far left as it'll go, and you can just get right up. We used to do something we called the zigzag skip, because the artifact that you would collect was shaped like a zigzag, and it's stupid and not fun. I'm so glad we found a different skip, even if it was harder on the Switch. Now it's much easier on PC because the physics changes. The physics changes are kind of weird. I have a live stream going over a lot of them, like mentioning what's different and what's changed and fun stuff you can do in the game. I'll link that below. But also there's a lot of stuff that's really similar. Like, you can do all of the same tricks. I specifically made sure that every single trick that you could do in the Switch version was possible in the PC version. The one that I had to change was to skip into Block Sheep. The next level that we'll talk about is called Block Sheep Pastures. And there's like a wall ride you can do. Simple Flips actually did it accidentally. Simple Flips is the reason I know about this game. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Anyway, you can ride off the wall there, but in the Switch version you have to be going really fast, and you'll barely make it over. In the PC version, initially, before I started doing the porting work, you would actually bonk off of a wall there, because between the 2 pillars is actually a separate segment of wall. And it was just barely misaligned, so I had to put a collider there. It was removed somehow. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but the collider there was removed. So I had to actually go in and you have to start the wall run a lot later, but because the difference is in the PC version, you need to be going slow for wall runs anyway, and it's easier on shorter segments of walls, so it works out. But anyway, I think ice is pretty well done. There's not a lot of back and forth, and the back and forth that there is really fun because you're still trying to outpace the penguins, you know? And then when you get on top where there are no penguins, you don't have to go back and forth, you just go around to the buildings to get the pieces that you need. And then you collect the piece that unlocks Black Sheep and you leave. And actually, I believe between Ice and Black Sheep is the only instance where there are no artifacts in the hub that you can now get because of the piece that you got in the previous level. So you just go straight to Black Sheep Pastures. Then you have to do a light puzzle, quote unquote, not really a puzzle, but you have to hit the tiles on the ground in order from the lowest tone to the highest. You can actually do the second highest first, the highest second to last, and then the one that actually opens the portal last, which I thought was the intended order for a long time, and it was much easier for me to do. But now I do the intended order just because, I don't know, it feels right. Though I think in speedruns, the not intended, but what I thought was intended for a long time order is a little bit faster. Anyway, you enter Black Sheep, and you can get, there's a piece hidden behind a bush, pretty out in the open. You're going to be exploring over there anyway. Really good first piece. And it lets you get in this pen, so you collect the piece inside of the pen, which opens the pen so you can get out. And now, a gimmick. And of course, each level has its own thing, right? The first level you have to turn around, or the second level you have to turn around because you likely didn't get the artifact your first time there. The third level was a big desert, a big wide open area. The fourth level was more of a puzzle area kind of, and it's easy to secret break. It's really small. Then there was a maze, and then a half pipe, and then a giant desert, and then a beach with block whales, of course. And then it was icy. And now you have to push. You have to push sheep, these block sheep, which is tedious, but in a good way. It's really fun to see these sheep like squirming and like freaking out because there's this RC car ostensibly pushing them towards their pen, acting like a sheepdog. I think it's a lot of fun, really whimsical. And it doesn't take that long. It only takes like 5 minutes to get them all into the pen, assuming you don't know where they're at. If you don't know where they're at, it only takes a few minutes to get them in the pen. It's really not that long. It's a lot of fun to see. It's a lot of fun to do. Well, not a lot of fun to do, but it's not annoying to do, you know? And then you have to ride across the sheep to get another artifact, which opens a windmill. And if you get hit by the windmill, sometimes it won't do anything, and it'll just blip, and then like your car will like bounce, and then nothing will happen, and you can just drive in. Other times, if you get hit by the windmill, you will go flying, and it's incredible, and I love it. And in fact, Lord Blockstar tells you, hey, don't get hit by the windmill, it'll chop you to bits. So anyway, you get the final artifact for that level. For some reason, the pen goes up, and you have to ride a ramp to get back up to it, get another piece, and then fall all the way back down. Anyway, you leave sheep, Black Sheep, which lets you get to the attic of the university, which has a portal up there that you have to use the color of the books to work out the order that you should hit the switches. So it's a puzzle. But I don't think we actually, the speedrunners, when I say we, usually I mean speedrunners, we actually don't use the intended order because it's not required, and it's easier to drive this other order, I guess, because of how we enter it. We don't actually enter it from the intended direction. We enter it by jumping in from a bridge near it, because it's faster, obviously. So I'm still not sure how you're supposed to do that puzzle. I don't know what the intended solution is. I know how you find the solution, I just don't know what the solution actually is. And it takes you to Brick Bristle's Island. Now, this level is probably the worst in the game, because there's a lot of dropping down to the bottom of the island on the opposite side of the ramp that lets you get back up onto the island. And then getting one or two pieces and then driving all the way around so you can get back up on top of the island. So it's really, really tedious. You're just going back and forth constantly, and without hints. It's really frustrating because you'll go and hit there are these, I probably should have mentioned them earlier, there are these giant floating cubes with a button underneath them, and then when you press the button it replays the previous hint, even if you have hints off. So if you're playing with hints off like I did initially, or in my second playthrough, and you don't know what just happened, you don't know what the piece you just got did, you have to drive all the way around the island, get up on top of the island, drive back to the opposite side of the island now that you're on the island, and then hit this button, and it'll show you some random place, probably back down in the water that you just came from because you didn't notice it because you have hints off. And then it does have a really cool gimmick where it switches to night when you go through this little portal in the middle of the island. Instead of actually exiting, it changes the level from day to night. And the water rises, so it fundamentally shifts the dynamic of the level. There are these like wooden platforms that will raise up with the water, and you can block off certain other wooden platforms from raising up when you're in the daytime version when the water is lower. I think it's a really cool gimmick. However, it's ruined just because of how big this level is and how long it takes to get all the way around the island, especially since you can't boost when you're in the water. It's good concept though. Oh, and in Deluxe, there is a wheel. There's a token here that you can only get with at least the 4th car, which requires 12 tokens to get because it's 4 per car. You start with 1. It takes 4 to unlock the 2nd car, 8 to unlock the 3rd, and then 12 to unlock the 4th, which is Froggy. And I didn't realize this the first time I played, and they ended up patching it, but initially you couldn't actually get the final or you couldn't come back to this level at all once you got that car. So it was just like a stroke of luck that you could happen to get enough tokens before you visit this level. This is the only level that you can't, it's not the only level, but there are 3 levels that you can't revisit, and this is one of them, and this happens to have a token that you need this car for that you can just barely get because there are just barely enough tokens that you can collect before this. But then they fixed it so that if you actually beat the game, you'll still have all the tokens that you got initially, so you'll be able to come back and get this without sequence breaking, essentially. So anyway, that level's relatively boring. There are some cool concepts like the day-night thing, and at the top of the island there's this big flower that opens during the day but it's closed during the night, so you have to find a way to get up there with the water up because there's a ramp that you can only use with the water up that's in the water. And then you have to come back during the day. You have to unlock a pathway to get up there during the day so you can actually get the artifact that's inside of the flower. Really cool concept with the water raising and lowering in the flower, but it's just ruined by the actual design of the level itself. It's still fun to go into, but it's more tedious than anything. So after doing the island, the throne room level is unlocked. And this level, well, it's more like a castle than a throne room. I really love the aesthetics of this level. This is probably my favorite looking level, because you're in this, whimsical, surreal castle with grid-like, or with like a checkerboard pattern on the wall, and it's like all shiny, and there's dust particles floating everywhere. And you're going back and forth you're exploring this entire castle, even though it's just one room. It genuinely feels like a castle just because of the size and where the pieces are placed. So you're driving back and forth through this castle to get these artifacts. And then the main room, or the main door of the castle opens, the dust floods out, and it's just pristine. It's so nice. I love the aesthetics of this level. So you're driving around and getting all the artifacts. And then there are these ramps that you have to push to get these artifacts in these windowsills. Windowsills? Anyway. So you have to push these glass ramps across stone floor, and it makes the most ear-wrenching sound in the game. It's so good. I love it. It's horrible. That's really all there is to mention in that level. It looks pretty, and it has the worst sound in the game. So you collect those artifacts, you leave, and it opens up these walls that let you hit 2 switches, time switches, to get into the generator level that I was talking about earlier. This level's fine. You get an artifact under this walkway that lets you push the walkway, that lets you push the walkway, and each walkway you push, like, it doesn't lock off the area of the level, but you have to use ramps to jump up over the walkway if you're on the wrong side, because there's only a ramp on one side of the walkway to actually get on top of it. So you have to like jump over them if you want to get on the right side. So it's fun to explore casually. And then in the speedrun, you use a glitch to ride up a wall and collect a specific artifact that lets you push the final walkway right off the bat. And it's a super short level to speedrun. So I think this is one of the more fun levels, just because it's short in a speedrun and relatively fun casually. Plus, you get a lot of lore in this level, and then you get to Limbo. Limbo is, I don't, casually, Limbo kind of sucks, if I'm being honest. Like, it's not awful, but it's not, there are these, like, tiles on the floor, these tiles that, like, they have colored arrows on them, right? So you have to follow the color that Lord Blockstar says out loud. And as you follow, you get to another tile on the ground that has 4 arrows, each a different color, and then you follow the color again, and then you follow another color, and then you follow another color. Meanwhile, you're in this massive maze that you can't see any of the walls in because there's so much dense fog, you just can't see like 5 feet in front of you. So you have to go really slow, following the color, and every now and then there'll be like a wall directly, or if you go straight in the direction that Lord Blockstar says, you have to go around it and try to stay going in the same direction. It's fun, but a little too drawn out in my opinion. Speedrunning, you just know the layout of the maze, so you go straight to the end, and you don't actually have to follow the path. He actually takes you on a really, really long path through Limbo, because, you know, his memory is fractured, and also it's implied that he doesn't even have a great memory to begin with, so, you know, it's fun, poking fun at Lord Blockstar. So you drive straight to the end of the maze, which was really hard to learn initially. Actually, when I did my first few speedruns, I just turned hints on when I got into Limbo because I didn't know the path to get through Limbo quickly. So I just followed the colors and it took me forever. But now you can beat Limbo in like 30 seconds if you know what you're doing. It's great. And then, you know, with the new cars in Deluxe, it takes maybe a couple minutes, or maybe not even 30 seconds, especially if you have like the battery-powered rocket car. There are 2 tokens in... Oh, actually, there's a token in Generator. I'm going to go back to that for a second. Where you can't get it if you get the final walkway piece because it covers it up. But, so you have to like jump into the middle of the Generator on top of it. And that was the hardest token for me to find in my first playthrough. Anyway, in Limbo, there are 2 tokens hidden through this maze. The second one is so good. It sounds annoying, but I really like it. You have to use... There are a few cars you can use to do it. But you have to use a special car. One of the special cars. Either Froggy, the battery-powered rocket, or Spider. You might be able to do it with high torque. I'm not sure. But you jump out over the wall, the outer wall. And on the left side of the maze, there's a token there on the outside of the maze. And I actually ended up getting this on accident my first playthrough because I was just jumping over walls. Hoping that I would find it, which was really dumb, not a great idea. But anyway, so that's really fun. I like Limbo, but the casual route is a little too long for my tastes. So you exit Limbo, and you're put back into the throne room level. But this time, Captain Brick Bristle is flying around, and you have to catch him. If you back up and then immediately go around counterclockwise and go really, really fast, you can just barely catch him before he turns around. If, however, you are unfortunate enough to miss him, it is so hard to catch up to him because your drifts have to be exactly around the corners because he goes so darn fast. It is so ridiculously difficult to catch up to him, especially on the Switch version where you don't have like the faster boost car or the nitro car or... actually, those are really the only ones that would help. Higher torque would help a little bit. But, you know, if you back up and go counterclockwise, immediately you can just barely catch it, which removes the tedium of driving in circles for 30 seconds. I've had 3 minutes where I just couldn't catch him because it was just barely too fast for me because I was bad at the game. And then you see your first, like, in-your-face stained glass piece. There's another one in front of the piece that lets you move the piece in the middle of the pool, the platform in the middle of the pool, that you actually can't get until later when you collect the piece that opens the thoroughfare. There's a stained glass piece there, and I believe that's the only other one that you can collect up to this point. No, there's one under the ramp, or the platform that leads to, like, ice. When you jump across to get to the ice level, if you turn around and drop down, there's another stained glass piece there. So up to this point, there are 3 stained glass pieces that you could have collected. There are 10 in the entire game, and you need every single one to finish the game, to unlock the portals that lead to the endings. So there are those 3. There's another time switch puzzle, but this time the switch is on the opposite side, so you know that it doesn't lead straight back into Generator. You can't actually go back into Generator or Limbo. Those are the other two levels that you can't go back into. So the switch to act, the first switch, the time switch, is on the opposite side of it was, the side that was, on the thoroughfare. I'm trying to explain this. It's kind of hard to explain. So when you cross the thoroughfare, the switch is on the left initially that lets you get into the generator. The one on the left is gone now. There's one on the right. And you have to go do that and then follow the path and drop down to where the other stained glass piece in the hub that I was talking about was, that isn't next to the piece that lets you move the platform. There's a switch down there that opens a portal that takes you to these islands floating way off in the distance, which is actually where the block whales are swimming. So you're up really close to these block whales on this big island that seems to have a house. The citizens of Lecteria are all floating holographic heads. I don't know if I mentioned that. So presumably they can just fly into this area. There's another portal on the first island that you go to that takes you to another island with the actual stained glass piece on it. So that's 4. There are 3 others in the hub. 1, you have to go and do a timed light puzzle, quote unquote, a timed light switch on the ground thing to activate a ramp next to 2 people playing chess, or 2 old holographic heads playing chess. A lot of fun. I love their dialogue. In the hub, there are a few others. There's a tour guide that'll mention places that you should go, and I think he actually hints towards you going to Ice, back to Ice Temple Valley to get a piece, because when you got the final artifact there earlier, there was a stained glass piece, but it was covered by an ice cube, so you couldn't actually get it at the time. So you get that. So that's 6. Another one in the hub, you have to play hopscotch with a character known as Hopscotch Kid. That's literally the only name. That's what he's called internally as well. So you have to hit these light switches in like a very zigzag pattern that's really hard to drive. And so that's your 7th. That's your next one in the hub. There's one on top of the Colosseum where you have to time your driving between these 2 pillars, or these 2 things that'll push up out of the wall. So you hit these 3 switches, they recede into the wall, you pass the first one, they come back out, then they go back in, and then you pass the second one. I've been flung off so many times because I just didn't realize that you were supposed to wait in between them, or I'd try to wait in between them and then I'd get pushed off because the back one, or the first one, just barely hit my back and sent me flying. And then there's a platform here, or there's a portal there that lets you, or that teleports you to the very top of the arena, and then you drop down, go around. What you're supposed to do is go all the way around to the back of the arena, and there's a ramp that lets you safely get down, but you can just drop off the front and collect the stained glass piece there. So that's 8. When you go back to the observatory, or the planetarium, whatever you want to call it, did I talk about the planetarium? I don't know if I talked about the planetarium. No, I did. Did I? Okay, anyway. Oh, no, I didn't. So instead of going to Generator when I said you were supposed to, there's a piece there that lets you get into the, or that changes the destination of the portal in the university attic that takes you to a planetarium. You hit a light, or a switch there, or you get a artifact on top of the portal that you came in from. And then you hit a switch, a platform raises up, and then you go around and get a piece that lets you do the timed light, or the timed switch puzzle that I was talking about earlier. I have no idea how I forgot about that completely. Anyway, you go back into the planetarium, and Brick Bristle and his crew are here playing a pirate party theme song, which is awesome. Best part of the entire game. This pirate crew is like, oh yeah, Lord Blockstar said we could be out of this magical book that he sealed us in forever, as long as we didn't cause any trouble, and we can stay here. And now there are ships flying off in the distance in the planetarium. It's great. So you do a slightly more advanced block puzzle. Instead of just hitting 1 light switch on the ground, you have to hit, let me count, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 in an X pattern. X marks the spot, pirates, it's great. And it's a simpler route up at the top, but it's just for 1 stained glass piece or whatever. And that's the 9th one. And the 10th one is so, like, going back into the planetarium is weird. Like, why would you do that? The tour guide might mention it or whatever. But there's not any obvious reason to go back into the planetarium. But it makes a little bit of sense because it's a cool area that there wasn't much in before. The final stained glass piece is in the weirdest spot. Lord Blockstar even mentions it, right? So what you're supposed to do is go back to beach, and behind the giant, the biggest rock there, where all the seagulls are circling around, there's a stained glass piece there, just there. And it didn't show up before, it just shows up now because you captured Brick Bristle, I guess. And when you collect it, Lord Blockster is like, well, how'd you know this was here? What the heck? Which, I mean, obviously, like, they knew this was a weird spot to put it. But I don't know. I feel like there's a better way they could have done that. And that's easily the hardest one to find. And maybe the planetarium one would also be pretty difficult. Anyway, you collect that, and you're finally able to ascend into the museum, the complete museum, to view all of the stained glass pieces, and to exit, and to beat the game. There are 2 portals here. The left one is green, and it takes you back to your previous life. So the credits will just take place in the flashback level with your car spinning up on top of the Fix-It workshop. However, the one on the right is blue, and it lets you stay in Blocktaria to be praised as a hero, essentially. So you're put up in the middle of the hub, back where the 2 guys were playing chess. You're on a pole, spinning, just like in the other ones. But now there are people around you. There's the lady who was watching block whales. I think the tour guide is there. There's a block penguin. A pixel penguin doing circles next to you. There's a block whale flying off in the distance. So obviously it's the better ending, right? And neither of them are faster for a speedrun, so speedruns don't favor one ending over the other, just personal choice. And obviously blue is better. Better color too, obviously. So that's the game. That's my gripes and general consensus on the level design. Really, really good game. A lot of tedium that easily could have been cut back on. And now, there's a lot added in Deluxe. I've already gone over most of the notable tokens. The last notable token that I didn't mention is in a new portal in the Colosseum. There's this portal that costs 4,500 batteries to get into. The easiest way to do that the most obvious, actually, I'll start with that. The most obvious is to get the 200 in the hub with the double battery car. It'll take, let's see, it's 200, it takes 4,500. But you have to drop off and lose 25 each time. So you get 400. And then if you get the one from the 25 from the token, you won't lose any. So 4,500 divided by 4 is 11-ish. And you'll probably already have some batteries anyway. So, you know, and it takes 4,500 batteries to get into this portal that has a token as well as a giant soccer field. It's so much fun. And this was just completely out of the blue. No one was expecting it, added to the deluxe version. I didn't even know what was happening, and I had access to the game files. I just didn't look into them because I wanted to be surprised by whatever they added. I didn't know where any of the tokens were. I got the license plate. There's a license plate. So I'll talk about that when I get to the car that unlocks it. I found all the tokens on my own without looking into the files. Anyway, so yeah, there was that token. This really cool area with tons and tons of batteries and stuff flying all over the place, or batteries flying all over the place, an entire soccer field. You're playing Rocket League and Car Quest. It's great. And each token, or each 4 tokens, you can unlock a new car. Now, I personally said that each car should be unlocked with an achievement. So, for instance, beating the game would unlock double battery. Beating the game in under an hour would unlock the unlimited rocket and, you know, the other stuff in between. However, E-Zone disagreed and added these tokens. I like the tokens. However, I still wish there was some restriction on when you could unlock the cars. I don't think you should be able to unlock the cars until you beat the game at least once with the normal car, just because the other cars make it so easy to sequence break, and sequence breaking makes it really, really hard to figure out where you're supposed to go. But I mean, it is what it is. Plus, there's the license plate thing that I talked about earlier, so it would be kind of hard to do that. So it's a whole thing. But so essentially, the first car that you unlock, the second car is the double battery. Then there's a super boost, which charges the boost when you drift. You get a boost when you drift. I don't know if I mentioned this. I did a little bit, but I didn't say how you got it. So when you drift, you start building up boosts like Mario Kart. The super boost makes it build up much faster, as well as making you go a little bit faster, and it lasts much longer, so you go farther and faster with it. The next car you unlock is Froggy, which lets you jump over walls, and it even lets you scale walls. So if you jump and then flip the car, it gives you finer aerial control as well. So you jump, you flip the car so that the wheels land on the wall, so your nose is pointing straight up, and then you just mash the jump button, it'll just fly up the wall. It doesn't make the spider car obsolete, but it does allow you to get a lot of tokens that only Spider Car would let you otherwise. The next one you get is the higher torque car, which makes you jump farther when you go off of ramps, but you can't manually jump, so it's not as good as Froggy. It also increases acceleration a little bit. It's a lot of fun to see what jumps you can and can't do, and it also lets you jump a lot farther than some of the other cars. And when you're going off ramps, it lets you jump farther than Froggy when you're actually coming off of the ramp, but Froggy will let you jump over the wall anyway, so it's fun to mess with, but it's not that useful. Then there's a battery rocket, so you collect a battery, you get rocket fuel from that battery that lets you fly for a limited amount of time. Then when that fuel runs out, you have to collect another battery to refill it. You can collect batteries in midair. There are chains of batteries. There's one chain of batteries that lets you get a token in the hub next to the block sheep entrance. So that one's a lot of fun, and it lets you get a few others. And some of them, the battery behind the final portal and block spin is a lot easier to get if you use battery rocket, but you can also get it with Froggy by just jumping over the portal. But it's really, really precise because you have to like scale the portal, and it's hard to get onto the area that you can scale. So, you know, just use battery rocket because it's easier. There's Nitro, which lets you boost at will, but it lets you stop it at any time too. So using the action button, the button that lets Froggy jump, it starts boosting. And then when you let go, it immediately stops boosting, so it's not like Super Boost, where you have to brake to stop boosting. Then there's Spider, which lets you scale walls effortlessly. Even if you're going down, if you're facing nose down, you can like turn on the wall, you just stay stuck to the wall. Really relatively self-explanatory. And then, once you get all 32 tokens, you unlock the Unlimited Rocket Car. Now, the Unlimited Rocket Car also comes with a license plate. So you register your email, and you get a license plate with the number. So like the order of people you were with that unlocked it. So that was a really bad explanation. So the first person to unlock it was Baron Bishop. Got the license plate, I think it was CQ-001. I was the second person to unlock it, so I got the license plate 002. Now the next person to unlock it will get 003, and so on. And this is kind of why they can't really do the whole you can't unlock cars until after you beat the game thing, because they used it as an advertising thing to bring up or to get more people to play it, you know, as it came out. There's also a sale when it came out. It was on sale for $12. The game is $20. I think it's well worth that, especially if you decide to speedrun or even just, you know, sequence break the game for your second playthrough. It's a lot of fun to mess with. It's a lot of fun to explore. That's my thesis. It's a really, really fun game to explore, but it's pretty tedious casually, if not still really whimsical and relaxing to just explore this world, right? So, is it worth $20? Absolutely. That's my review of the game. My critique is it's pretty tedious at times, but I think it's well worth it, especially once you are able to learn the world and to understand how you're able to sequence break the game, know what artifact does what, and how you can play the game in a different order than you're intended or that you've done before. So that was all off the top of my head, by the way. I did not check anything for that. I did actually check the order of the cars that you unlock, because I've only played the Steam version for a few hours. Well, I've played it for like 40 hours, so I don't know if I'd consider that a few hours, but you get the idea. I haven't played it as much as the Switch version. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all, and I don't know how to end this.